Hello, and welcome to Coffee on Korriban. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 cheesiest lines from the prequels. Now, if you know me, you know I love the prequels, and I really don't think there are many cheesy lines. Maybe some things that could be written better, but for the most part, I don't have an issue with a lot of the lines that other people do. So I went ahead and went on to ScreenRant.com to their article, The 10 Cheesiest Lines in the Prequels, and I'm going to go through them and see if they're really as cheesy as most people believe, and kind of what the reasoning is, or what my reasoning is, as to why they are not quite as bad as most people say. But then again, it's Screen Rant, so... Quick announcement before I start this video, I now have for sale some Coffee on Korriban mug. So if you feel the need to slurp out of a distinguished drinking vessel, now you can pick one of these Coffee on Korriban mustache mugs up for yourself. Now it is on Teespring, but I made the profit margin on those like 20 cents to get the cost as low as possible. I don't care about making money, but if you would like a mustache mug, they are available for the lowest possible price. And be sure to subscribe to my channel because at 574 subscribers, I will be doing a live stream giveaway of one of those mustache mugs. So be sure to tune in to that. Why the number 574? Well, I'll explain in the live stream. And here's the question of the day. What do you think is the cheesiest line in all of the prequels? And I want this to be personal for you. What line makes you cringe every time you hear it? And as I'm getting into this, I want you to put down in the... chat what that line is. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Alright, first on the list, it's over, Anakin! I have the high ground! I feel like most people assume that this line is saying that because Obi-Wan is at a higher elevation than Anakin, that he automatically wins the duel. And I don't think that's exactly what he was meaning by that. Obi-Wan Kenobi was not saying because I'm standing physically higher than you are, that there's no way you can win. Because, as people have pointed out, he could have jumped sideways onto the shore and then ran up higher than him. And from a sword fighting standpoint, the higher position isn't necessarily a better fighting position, so that's not what I believe that he meant at all. Obi-Wan knew where Anakin's head was at that point. He knew he was being fueled by not just his raw talent, but also his tapping into the dark side and giving into the dark side. And that was blinding him. His arrogance was blinding him. And Anakin knew the move that Obi-Wan had used to defeat Maul back on Naboo. And he was attempting to use that same exact move on Obi-Wan, kind of a slap in the face. Like, look, this is your signature move, I'm taking you out with it. Obi-Wan knew what Anakin was thinking at that point, and he knew he was going to attempt that. That's why he said, don't try it. And a lot of times we forget, with these lightsaber duels, only half the battle is what we see on screen. The actual swords coming together, and the blocks, and the parries, and the attacks, and the jabs, and the strikes. That's only half of it. The other half is in their minds as they're being controlled by the Force. If they weren't allowing themselves to be controlled by the Force, they wouldn't be as skilled of duelists as they were. So Obi-Wan knew where Anakin was coming from, and he knew what attack he was going to try, and that's why he said, don't try it. To Obi-Wan, having the high ground represented being in the position to comfortably block that attack, and unfortunately, Anakin's arrogance just blinded him to the fact that he didn't stand a chance pulling that move. Next one, it ought to be here, but it isn't. So, this is often a meme that people will share around for, Captain Obvious, just sharing something that is just too obvious that it doesn't need to be said. And on its face, that does seem kind of ridiculous, like, oh, it should be here, but it's not. But what he was saying was the gravitational pull of all the stars in that area indicated that there was a planet there, that there was a mass that exerted more gravitational force on the surrounding bodies in space. So what Obi-Wan was saying is, according to the science and according to logic, there should be a planet here, and this is the planet I'm looking for. But the records don't show that. So I don't think that's a cheesy line at all. If anything, it's kind of cool because it's scientific. It's talking about gravitational pull. All right, next one is Vader saying, "No!" And at first, this does seem to be an awkward delivery for what is basically the emotional crux of the movie. Padme has just died, Anakin's just lost everything, including half his body. And all he can manage is whale sounds. So a lot of people seem to have a problem with this. But one explanation that I've heard is that Vader's suit couldn't really process the sounds that Anakin was making inside the suit. Because obviously, that's not Anakin's real voice coming through the suit. And at this point, Anakin's lungs and vocal tract and everything was just destroyed by the fire. And just imagine all of the pain that you've experienced in your entire life culminates into this one scream. Such an unhuman, blood-curdling scream that the suit doesn't know how to recognize that, and all it can do is say, next we got unlimited power. And Screen Rant goes on a rant about this in their article, and they say that we got the lame Darth Sidious on this occasion, and when he had Mace Windu on the ropes after Anakin attacked him, he started screaming about power and seemed to forget about the whole idea that Anakin wasn't supposed to know that he was actually the bad guy. Instead, Sidious simply screamed about power like a generic villain, even though he was hiding this fact. And to that I would have to say, he wasn't hiding that he was the Dark Lord anymore. Like, Anakin already knew that he was the Dark Lord of the Sith, and had already confronted him about it, and had already not killed him over it. And let's not forget, Palpatine hated Mace Windu. He hated all that he represented, and finally being able to unleash the dark side that you've kept hidden for so long, your entire career basically, letting that out on your enemy. He was having fun with it. He was toying with Windu. He was electrocuting him and kind of just letting him sizzle for a little bit. But he finally didn't have to hide that anymore, and so he let out his unlimited power. And also, he wanted to demonstrate to Anakin the true power of the dark side, of basically saying, look, now you've taken this step, I need you to join me, because this is what unlimited power looks like. Alright, next line that they have an issue with is, I am the Senate. And again, Screen Rant says, after being confronted by Mace Windu that he was to be arrested, Palpatine scoffed at the idea of anyone capturing him, which is when he openly claimed that he was the Senate. This is one of those lines that made you wonder if Palpatine spent a little spare time flicking through a book entitled How to Be a Supervillain for Dummies. And this is just kind of sad that they don't really treat Palpatine with the respect as a villain as he deserves. He's a fantastic villain. I'm going to do a video in the future all about how Palpatine is the perfect villain. And they just don't really seem to understand his whole point. Anyway, my explanation for this is Palpatine was telling Mace Windu that he basically controlled the entire situation. If they went to arrest him, there's no charges that could be brought against him because being a Sith Lord wasn't a crime. No one even cared that there were Jedi in the universe. Most people didn't even believe the Jedi were real. And so what would the Jedi do? Oh, this guy has a red lightsaber and he does evil things, which he's never actually done any evil things. Like, they wouldn't be able to have anything on him. And if they went to attack him or try to kill him, it would just be an assassination attempt. And if he had defended himself like he did, it would be justified. So in saying I am the Senate, he's basically telling Mace Windu, there is nothing you can do because I am everything. I am all the Sith. Oh gosh. Alright, I think this line needs a rewrite. If I was writing a novel and I put this line in it, how would I rewrite it? Palpatine's face grew dark. Are you threatening me, Master Jedi? Mace Windu's resolve remained unchanged. The Senate will decide your fate. A dark and foreboding glare grew behind Palpatine's eyes. For all your acclamations of wisdom, you are a fool. I control the Senate. I control the courts. I control the Republic. If you move to strike me down, the Jedi Order will be made the enemy of the people, and my power will continue long after you and the other so-called masters fall. Alright, the next line is basically, do it. Which is kind of a meme in itself, and it's really funny, and it's just do it. And just basically when Palpatine commands him to kill Dooku. Some people seem to have a problem with that, and I don't know what the problem is. Because at this point, Anakin doesn't know he's the villain. All he knows is that Palpatine is the one person that he has been able to trust and confide in. Add on to that the fact that Obi-Wan is laying unconscious over on the floor over there. And Anakin had just tapped into the dark side to defeat Count Dooku. And I believe that Palpatine was fueling Anakin with dark side energy that entire fight. So that line, not cheesy for me. I don't see what the problem is. Come on, Screen Rant. And kind of what I was saying earlier about Palpatine fueling him with dark side energy at that point, when he says do it, it's a command. Almost like a command in the Force, like he's letting a little bit of Darth Sidious shine through in his character. Alright, next one. Obi-Wan saying, I have seen a security hologram of Anakin killing younglings. This isn't cheesy to me at all, and I know that Ewan McGregor had a hard time keeping it together on this line, that's why he's covering his mouth. But at the same time, I don't feel like his delivery or the line itself was cheesy. Like, what? Anakin was killing kids, I saw it on tape. How do you say that in a better way than I've seen a security recordings of Anakin killing younglings? Like, what else are you supposed to say? If anything's awkward, it's kind of Padme's response to that. No, he couldn't have. It's like, well, you saw him murder the sand people. Like, he told you he murdered all the sand people. So, like, obviously, you know, he's capable of that. Next one. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. What is the problem with this? Again, maybe things could be written better, or maybe from like a more poetic standpoint, but like, what is wrong with the line in the first place? Obi-Wan had just called Anakin's only hope for saving his wife's life evil. And what Anakin responds with is not an untrue statement. The Jedi, from his perspective, were evil. If you look at it with an objective opinion, there's a lot of things that the Jedi Order did that were completely corrupt. I'm gonna go ahead and rewrite this again. If I was writing a novel, this is how I would write this line. Obi-Wan screamed, pleaded with his Padawan. Anakin, Chancellor Palpatine is evil! Anakin responded, so certain in his resolve. The Sith and the Jedi are similar in almost every way. The only difference between the two is that the Sith are not afraid of the dark side of the Force. That is why they are more powerful. The Jedi have become a disfigured portrayal of what the Order is meant to be. The Jedi say there is no emotion, but peace is a lie. Their quest for harmony has brought chaos into existence. Their holy crusade for serenity has turned into an unyielding march for power. You might not see it, Master, but from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Next one. Believe me, I wish I could just wish away my feelings. I don't think it's fair to expect the way that Anakin talks to Padme to be completely polished. Like, he hasn't been allowed to interest himself with anyone his entire life since coming to the Jedi Order. He hasn't been allowed to be close to anyone or in any sort of meaningful relationship with anyone, and now he's suddenly alone with the one person other than his mom that he has cared about basically his entire life. And he knows that he's called to be a Jedi, but at the same time he can't relieve himself of those feelings. And finally, you guys probably assumed this line was coming. I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere. This is probably the most quoted line when talking about bad dialogue of the prequels. And this is actually a genius line. Go and check out right now 2 Star Wars nerds on their channel. They did a video on this where they really did a great job of explaining this line and what the context is and what it actually means and how it's actually genius and how it's actually an amazing line of dialogue. And I'm going to kind of try to touch on that right now, but they did it first. Go check out their original video. They did a fantastic job on it. So let's get some context for this quote. Padme had just talked about how on school trips they used to come to that exact spot and swim over every day to the island and lay out on the sand and let the sun, the warm sun, mind you, dry them off. But to Anakin, the sun and the sand represented the harshest aspects of life. They represented aging and destruction. Sand wasn't a comfort, it was a misery. It was bondage, it was cruelty. And then he counters that by saying everything here is soft and smooth. And sure, this could sound like a really cheesy pickup line, but he's just being honest. He's telling her that she's the most comforting thing that he's ever experienced, that she is the most relieving thing that he's ever known. So for this final one, I'm gonna go ahead and rewrite it again. If I was writing a novelization of this is how I would write this line. Anakin's eyes narrowed as he stared into the water. He was 8 years old, in Watto's junk shop. He could feel the bruises on his face swelling as he stared at the drops of blood soaking into the sand that covered every inch of the shop's floor. Growing up on Tatooine, Anakin said, finally snapped back to reality. Sand was not a luxury to be enjoyed. It was a burning reminder of the cruelty of everyday life. It was coarse, just like everything there. It represented a roughness found in everyone. No one cared. No one helped. It was a constant feeling of irritation that I could never escape. The misery was everywhere, and the sand was everywhere. But not here. This place. With you, everything is soft and smooth and comforting. You are the opposite of the torture of my childhood, and with you I am finally at peace. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did enjoy that, and you are not subscribed to my channel, I humbly suggest that you do. I really like to get into the more philosophical side of the Star Wars fandom, and why we like those things, and what is it about those deeper things that we enjoy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed those lines and the rewrites, and maybe I've changed your mind. Maybe you thought some of those lines were cheesy, and now you understand them a little bit more. But I just want to thank you for stopping by, and if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate your time, and I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.